This is Spoiled Anime, and I'm Joseph, and with me is.
Adam.
And like always, we are going to spoil an anime. This is Fatal Fury, three-box set for Fatal Fury 1, 2, and 3, and Adam is going to give the synopsis like he usually does, and then we're just going to spoil it.
So we had the three Fatal Fury movies. First one being Legend of the Hungry Wolf. Then the second one is Fatal Fury 2, The New Battle, and then Fatal Fury the Motion Picture. Um, all of these essentially follow Terry Bogard and the different opponents that he ends up scoring off with in the end every time. Also along for the ride is his brother Andy, and then his friends Joe Higashi and Mai Shiranui, and just the kind of the antics and fights they get into along the way.
All right, so I think we hit on this in the first or the last podcast, which was that this was kind of one of the first I think one of the first I owned that we kind of watched the hell out of these when we were younger, um, and it's spawned off of the video games, um, and Adam looked earlier, and there was no consecutive manga that followed this, so you guys can't bitch about us in the comments about it followed a manga, so that's one of the first, but so with this, obviously, because we watched the hell of it, I enjoyed it, and that's why I wanted to bring it into the podcast.
Absolutely, I also agree. I would give this one for just sheer entertainment action value. It's worth watching. I mean, I feel the animation holds up. The action scenes are good. It's just a. I mean, you're not. This isn't gonna be any like groundbreaking drama piece. It's a anime made from a video game. What do you expect? But the action's good. The story's good enough to tie it together, and it's worth a watch.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones that essentially you could watch it with a child, but it has themes that the kid would enjoy, but at the same time there are themes that an adult could enjoy and watch it without, and like the kid would never really realize it, you know. But so without further ado, let's actually. If people haven't seen it, go see it and come back. And if you have seen it or you just don't care, we'll break it down. We'll start with Fatal Fury 1, and then we'll work our way through each one. So this will probably be a longer one. We may split it into two, we may not. So just be aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's see here. I guess we'll just start off with the first one. So the Legend of the Lone Wolf, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Hungry
So,
Wolf. Hungry Wolf. Sorry.
oh no,
The
that's fine.
Legend of the Hungry Wolf. So this is essentially the kind of origin story of our heroes here. Yeah, what starts right off with, you kind of get to see a scene with Andy and Terry along with their dad and their master, right?
Yeah, Master Tongue. And then, of course, at this point, it's doing that kind of split screen where you kind of see, like, somebody raiding a home, and then, you see them and Jeff, who's their father, or Jeff Bogart. I don't think it's Jeffrey. I think it's just Jeff Bogart.
It's
Uh,
just
yeah, and he's helping orphans, and to make it kind of understandable, Terry and Andy are not his children, but he has adopted them, and they're being trained by Master Tongue, and I'm assuming their father. Uh, you know, um,
yeah, and then then you kind of get the contrast, and you find out their father also chained with a guy, Geese Howard, who is like a crime. I think at this point, is he just a criminal, but not a crime lord yet?
yeah, I think he's just a petty, like a slightly higher up petty criminal, like higher than a petty criminal.
Yeah, but a highly trained fighter, same as their dad, and then they kind of get squared off, and Geese kills their dad.
Yeah,
Then
because of a little girl not letting go of Jeff. So he apparently can't defend himself, and he gets like a stab wound and kind of bleeds out on the street with no help whatsoever from anybody. They're kind of like, maybe we should get him to a hospital. It's like, he's not gonna make it.
I mean, this is not exactly the most original idea for creating a hero, but yeah, if it works, just go with the death of a parent.
Yeah, exactly.
Parents dying, and then Master Tongue gives them go forth and become stronger and come back and get vengeance kind of thing, instead of going, oh wait a minute, you're a grandmaster of the martial arts. How about you teach us instead? No,
Yeah.
no, it's go get stronger and come back.
Well, the worst part about it is like, in a way of it, like setting up like a sibling rivalry. In a way, he was like, remember, he's like, I will teach one of you our most prized move, but it goes only to the one who's strongest. Here's a grand idea. Why not give it to both of them? And then that way, it would have made it easier. But, that's not how this movie works. And so they go, and then it kind of time jumps at that point. Because I don't. Oh, wait, no. Did it do a montage of them getting the crap kicked out of them?
I think Andy goes off to get trained. I don't think it really follows him exactly. It just kind of follows around Terry getting his ass kicked as a kid.
Yeah.
And he just kind of like goes around and kind of picks fights with all these different people with different fighting styles, which it's kind of breeding this like Terry's the most hardcore street brawler because he trained fighting all these other hardcore street brawlers, and
Fought on the streets.
you know, whereas Andy kind of is traditionally trained, like you know, he Andy was trained in a school, whereas Terry went out and got it from the source.
Yeah, he got in fights.
Never minding the fact that a child getting knocked unconscious over and over again wouldn't affect you at all.
Yeah, no, not even the fact that it's just like, okay, where was an adult? Like, some kid who's like 11 or 12 is wandering bars, picking fights with adults, getting the crap kicked out of him, then coming back again. Not one person was like, maybe we should call somebody. They're like, no, he's gonna be hardcore one day.
There's no child protective services in Japan.
Yeah. Apparently not. When they just send a kid out, into the world.
Go forth, child. Get your ass kicked for 10 years and come back. You'll be hardcore.
Yeah, exactly. It's like the worst part about Master Tongue was not even that there were like 4 other extra abandoned children besides Andy and Terry.
I just want to know. I mean, is there even one real life example of a kid who goes out into the world, just gets his ass kicked for 10 years and comes back as like grandmaster fighter?
I doubt it. At that point, I would think that kid has so many issues that.
I mean, I'm not saying that kids, growing up on the streets don't become good, street brawlers to a degree, but I mean, like, you put a good street brawler up against a trained, say, a UFC fighter, they're not gonna win. I don't care how good their School of Hard Knocks was.
Well, unless they get a good preemptor in there, like they throw the dirt in the real fighter's eyes and then hit him in the back with a pipe. Maybe shiv him, whatever. But we won't focus on this part.
But anyway, so what I forget what is the move he learned, because then he ends up having to square off against Andy to prove that he can learn this ability, right?
Yeah, I think it was, what was it, the Hadioko Seiken? Is that right? I think that's what it was. It's the one where they spinny thing, because the power guys are heads up.
He figures that one out in the next one.
Yeah, it's the next one.
Yeah. It's like let's see here. The hurricane punch, is that what it was?
Yeah, it's like the hurricane punch. I think, and actually, kind of going into a little bit of a side tangent, is the character that I actually like the most in this is the little girl who grows up to be his love interest, who's kind of like works for Geese Howard and kind of tries to betray Andy, but he or not Andy, Terry, and then he's like, "I love you," and she's like, "I love you too," and then of course it ends like any Japanese romance. She's dead. Um, she gets like flung out a freaking window. He's like, if you want her, like that's the whole thing. Like that's what I think made the first one kind of so satisfying is because Lily gets thrown like his love interest gets thrown out a window, and of course, just like the father, no one takes her to a hospital. She's just dead. Um,
Oh yeah, it's like when it's like, I mean, you have, I mean, it really sets up Geese as like this really bad dude. It's just like, he's like, you know what? I killed your dad. Get over it. And then it's like, oh yeah, oh you like this chick? Out a window.
yeah, yeah,
It's like it really makes you like it's like overly trying to make like okay this dude just is a dick.
yeah. He's just a straight out dick, and and that's what you like about Keith Howard is he's a dick, and you want him to be destroyed. Uh, and then also going back because Lily sings in this bar that is one of Keith Howard's kind of like set up gang spot kind of places. Is you meet Joe Higashi, who is also one of my favorite characters because he's just a smart alecky jokester, and he kind of like he's the one that's willing to step aside.
I mean, he's the comic relief, but he's he's a I mean strong fighter in its own right in compare. I mean he's on the level.
Yeah,
It's just he's I mean he's a little full of himself and stuff like that. And but I mean the first honestly I mean the first this first movie at that point you're it's when you kind of get introduced to him and they all kind of work together to get to kind of like you said Joe's the guy's like okay I know I'm not going to be able to finish this fight but I'll get you there.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
and
And he gets him there.
whereas
Yeah,
I think Andy and Terry are both fighting to kind of be the one to win the day. And I don't think it's until like the last movie when Andy kind of really says, "Okay, Terry, you're the one who needs to finish this. It's not me." And
yeah.
and whereas on the other uh,
And Joe Higashi also has that kind of thing where he realize it's like a lot of it. He goes, "Ah, this isn't my fight anyway. Why I don't this isn't my story. This isn't Joe Higashi's story. This is Terry's." And it's like it's one of those things he understands that. So he's always the kind of guy who goes in to set things up or goes in to give that clear shot.
yeah, I mean he's definitely the comic relief. And I mean so then so to finish really to finish out the first one he kind of I mean what happens so I mean they make their way Andy and Joe kind of fight their way to battle to confront Geese and then
Geese.
Terry arrives later to find that they both got their asses handed to them. um, Terry has learned uh,
The hurricane punch or fist.
the hurricane fist, and then goes to unleash it upon Geese, and it really does a whole bunch of nothing. Um, and then that's when Terry has to uh, kind of absorb some power here, and then
Yeah, he has to
keeps
get the
keep
key of the earth
yeah
because he wasn't like he got like oh, and another thing that's Master Tongue dead because of course why not? He gets punched by Geese at some point on the one of the escapes, and
if your dad dying wasn't enough, if your girl dying wasn't enough, well, let's just throw them all in there. Let's throw in your master too. Oh, everybody's just dead.
yeah,
So now you have to be the hero because all of your important figures in your life are just dead. It's definitely the not original, but it's definitely the old fallback of everybody who touches the hero is dead.
yep.
If you're important to the main hero, you're dead. Just
Yeah, it's over. Just give up. You're going to die in some way.
if you're a female in Terry's life, you might as well be a female in James Bond's life. You're gonna die.
Yeah.
It's
Unless you're
just,
Mai, because Mai Shiranui, obviously she's with for Andy. She's
she's
chasing after him, but
she
she's the only one that just cheers Andy and in ways Terry, but is immune to it because she doesn't actually have a remote feeling for Terry
she does
whatsoever.
she doesn't show up till the second one, right?
No, she shows up in the first one when Andy, in Andy's first fight, because I remember her jumping up and down next to Master Tongue. She like she's
I
not
remember.
even she's not even in any battle. Like she didn't even sign up. She just showed like they just they're like she's here. There it is.
She's a little bit of a fan service.
Yeah, she's like a fan service kind of cheerleader, and kind of to realize that
I,
Andy is lucky because even though he he kind of completely ignores her in the first one, he's like, "Why are you here? Why are you following me?" kind of thing.
I just like how I remember her jumping up and down.
Yep, why not? I mean, what? We were 13, 14 at that point.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So essentially, he absorbs some power from the Earth, and then adjusts the Hurricane Punch into a Hurricane Kick, which then devastates Geese, and they win the day.
Exactly. And then and that's
And
that's
then
it. And then it's like cheer and then he goes
and he'd be like, "All right, well, later, dudes. I'm gonna go get my ass kicked." Or now,
yeah,
I
they're
guess
like
now,
we're going to go our separate ways and train again cuz I have to become more powerful.
I guess at this point, it's no longer I'm gonna go get my ass kicked for 10 years. It's I'm gonna go kick some ass for 10 more years.
Yeah, exactly.
Or I guess it's not that
It's
long
not
between.
that long. I think it's like 2, 3 years something.
It's a
No, it's
short span.
not. It's short span. It's like 6 months or 8 months.
Yeah, because like it's almost like immediately after that's when. So let's roll right into the second one. So Fatal Fury, the new battle. I think it's right after. Uh, I think it's almost right after, pretty close to it. Um,
Yeah, which is
some
actually
some
the
the
introduction of Kim right out almost right off
yeah,
in the beginning.
because everybody hears that Terry Bogard beat Geese, who
Yeah.
at this point Geese was like known as to be like the greatest fighter ever, and no one was So then to see him be defeated, then suddenly the target was on Terry, and everybody's like, "Oh, I gotta prove myself," and this is where Kim shows up to fight him, the Taekwondo expert, I guess, and uh, then what he ends up using the hurricane kick to beat Kim.
Yeah, and then you find out that there's
He
some
twists his
twist. Yeah, exactly.
his ankle fighting him, and immediately after that is when, for my personal favorite out of the villains in the series, is Krauser. This guy Krauser shows up, this ginormous man who just moves at lightning speed, where the blur suddenly he appears and he's like almost like teleportation, just like shows up and just owns the shit out of Terry. Like, like
Yep.
Terry tries to do stuff, he can't move there. Suddenly he's right behind him, takes off his hat, crushes the steel plate that's in the front of his hat, and just like devastates Terry.
Yeah.
It makes and Terry then kind of has a complex of, oh, I don't think I can win. And
And then in probably what I always find the most annoying and to jump ahead to Iron Man 3, it was annoying in that too, was then they introduce a kid who reminds the character of himself when he's younger.
yeah, the oh, that's why I do this. It's like, come on now.
It's like, don't you have enough reasons?
Oh,
Lily, Dad, Master Tongue, all
br-
those people.
bringing up, saying as you, I think while I do find it funny that you bring that up in Iron Man, the kid's name is Tony. So
Yeah, that's true. Yep, Tony. I forgot. I completely blanked on his name. All I remember is really annoying kid who whines a lot and's like, don't give me to my mom. Don't, it's like, first off, you have a mother. What the hell? Like, this kid just disappears for what I assume for the movie is like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe even longer. Um,
Apparently, that's the norm in Japan.
yeah,
I mean, come on, Terry
kids
was
getting
wandering the
kicked.
street for 10 years.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's like the police are like, "Oh, your son has to be gone 10 years before we can register him as missing." Like this mom is just like freaking the hell out. Well, actually, she's probably the most responsible adult in the whole thing. She is like freaking out, like when her son, and then of course he escapes and then follows Terry again. Like it's like a horrible cycle. But but yeah. So
Yeah,
at
and then
this point,
you kind of get
also,
some.
oh, continue.
Oh, you wait, then you get a little introduction to, or did they go over who Krauser is at that after this point, or was it they kind of go back to now you actually get to see a little bit more of Mai and Andy?
Yeah, because I believe Andy is training up with Mai's grandfather. I think it's her grandfather that is training Andy.
Okay, Mai, yeah, was it his grandfather? Is that who? Is that who? Yeah, that's who trained Andy, and like him and Mai and him are from the same school or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. And then Joe comes and he's like, "Did you hear?" And Andy lost. Like, or not Andy lost. Terry lost. And then Andy's like, "Oh crap!" Like it was one of those things. Like I couldn't beat him. Someone just beat the crap out of him, kind of thing.
And that's when Joe shows up to tell Andy that like he lost, like that because he tells that Terry lost a fight um and then that's when whoever's the grandpa or somebody kind of that's when you get to find that's when they start to explain who Krauser is, that he's from this super noble family, Stroheim Castle.
Yeah,
South
Stroheim Castle.
or Krauser Stroheim, is that his
Hmm.
name?
Yeah.
So like he's part of this elite bodyguard that protects all the families of Europe, but then you find out, but it's just a cover who they kind of overthrow. They're actually the ones in control, overthrowing governments and doing whatever the hell they want.
Hmm.
He's like the Emperor of Darkness, the big bad guy,
Exactly.
um,
And okay,
and
what was the name of the swordsman guy well, jump one other small thing. Of course, the new grandfather or the new old man is a pervert. Um,
oh, of course,
of course, because you got
'cause
to have that.
he's an old man.
Because he's an old man.
He's an
Exactly.
old man in an anime. He's a perv.
Exactly.
Almost
So
every
they set
almost
out
every,
to
almost,
Germany at
mhm.
that point, and then you have Mai, Andy, and Joe in Germany looking at these people, and it gets introduced to the most annoying character that I actually find entertaining, which is the swordsman guy. Do you remember his name? He has like the fencing sword, and he's one of Krauser's personal guard, and he captures Mai.
Yeah, what was his name? What is his name? Is it is it Lawrence something? Lawrence Blood?
Yeah, I think so. And then Andy just goes like ape shit on that guy,
Oh yeah.
and
Just Rex's day.
yeah, it just wrecks his day and his face. Um, and then and the worst part about this is they do that, and then Joe goes off to be a hero and takes on Krauser.
Oh yeah, he's like this guy can't be that hardcore. I'm gonna go take him down. I've become a lot stronger since last time. Like even though this didn't work so good last time we went to go fight somebody without Terry, and this guy beat Terry. Screw it. I'm stronger than Terry now. I'm gonna go do it myself. And obviously not.
Yeah, no, it doesn't end well for him. He apparently does, according to Krauser, put up a good fight, but then he gets his body like put through the wall. But he said and it was one of the best lines. Krauser's like, "Don't worry about it. It was a good fight. I'll cover the room." And like walks out. It's like you're just that badass that you don't care that you just thrash like the suite of this apparently 5-star hotel, and you just leave a guy like in critical condition in the wall as you're leaving.
Yeah, he probably like he just like breaks like just shatters Joe. Like I think what isn't like Joe like in the middle of unleashing his like super move, which blows out all the windows.
Yeah.
Krauser just kind of steps through it and like wrecks his world.
Yep.
He's like, no, you're not good enough. Bam. And
Exactly.
then, uh, and then, but they I think the thing I liked about Krauser though is they actually kind of get a little bit more into his history as a villain. Like Geese, they don't really say. I mean, yeah, you know, he trained with his dad, and he's some crime boss who you see kill his dad, and then kill his woman, and then kill his master. You know, that's all well and good, but you don't like really get so much of like the why does Geese do what he does. Whereas Krauser, yeah, you know, you get to like when they're talking about his family history, and then you kind of, you know, this is what his family does, and then, you know, his dad was hardcore like this too, but you know, Krauser was just way more, you know, much more intense. And I think what at his 16th birthday he kills
Yep.
his dad.
Exactly. I was waiting for you to get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, he kills his dad to assume the head of the family, and then it's just like, psh, and then this is when he's like rocking out on the organ.
Which is probably the best enemy scene that anything like when people do that, especially because his was like a whole wall, and he's just like boom, like he's just playing this huge organ and talking about his having to kill his dad, and how every year on his birthday he like I forget what it was. He remembers the pain or something. It was something like so like kind of dark and twisted about it. Um, and of course, I think it's on his birthday that Terry does wind up fighting him.
Mm.
But 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 yeah, so it was just one of those things. That was like it was a cool. I like that's in just like you. I like Krauser, and also apparently he was somehow related to Geese Howard. I don't
Well,
remember, but I remember
it's
in one of the memories that they meet.
that's well, the Geese has the big scar across his eye,
Yeah,
and apparently Krauser's father killed his mother, Geese's mother.
yeah,
And
that's
then
it.
Geese tried to take down Krauser's dad, and Krauser beat on him and slashed him across the eye, which is
Right.
where he got his scar.
Hmm.
And I think in this movie, in the second movie, you only see him for a moment, just basically him reminiscing of like, I couldn't even beat Krauser's dad, and this guy's way stronger than him. So,
Yeah, exactly. Which of course leads Terry to finally getting to Germany and finding Joe in like critical condition, and of course the overused, completely bandaged from head to toe.
mhm.
But
Like, guess what? My head's okay.
yeah,
Uh, yeah, and then yeah, and that's when he sees that, and then he has like a kind of the quick a memory burst of his, you know, Lily, who was only really in his life for about 10 minutes before Geese threw her out the window.
well,
And
to
then,
be fair, 2 days, 2 days, and she, I would say 2 days because he slept through half of something. I don't remember. It was like a fight, and she showed up with alcohol, but
that's enough
but
to
that's enough.
spur a lifetime love.
Yeah, yeah.
You brought me booze, woman.
He
You're
brought
good.
me booze, and you
Uh,
know,
like we said, this isn't exactly movies meant that are going to win any awards for their script,
for
but
their depth. Yeah,
the action scenes and the villains are actually, and some of the battles are pretty epic. But
yeah. But then to hit on that lack of depth, straight out of coming out of Joe's room and being like, "Oh, he may never be the same ever again." They walk out, and what do? They decide to battle to see who is going to fight Krauser. Uh,
yeah,
like, oh, so one of us is already in horrible traction. Let us battle and put somebody else in traction. That sounds like a great plan.
and then whoever wins out of that shall be the one to go take on the big guy.
Yeah, and maybe get put in traction, or maybe put him in traction. But the
Yeah.
best part of it is, where's Tony? That's right, 2 feet away from the battle of people that can launch powerful abilities that can destroy arenas. Fantastic.
They
But
have
you know,
they have precise control.
yeah,
Even though when Andy tries to attempt his super move and Terry turns around and unleashes a power called the Power Geyser, which is not something that can be controlled in any sort of fashion. It's straight unloading of pure power in that direction, just wrecking everything in its path.
exactly.
Tony's cool.
Yeah, Tony's okay. And then the best part of it is he like runs up to his brother and what does his brother say? I almost had you. Fantastic writing.
Before he has him, he goes. He realizes he just discovered a new power,
Yeah.
and he's like, "Oh right, oh shit, I better go
Yeah.
check."
Oh crap.
He's like, "Yeah, I did it. Oh shit, that's my brother. I might want to make sure I didn't kill him."
Yeah, exactly. Oh.
Yeah, but then he goes and fights Krauser, and it's pretty good, epic like blowing up everything around them battle of unloading forces upon each other,
Yeah.
and then Terry then gets his moment to launch the full version of the power geyser, and which causes Krauser to admit defeat.
Yeah,
And
after just beating the spit out of each other, I think like he wears that cool kind of gold looking armor with the cape and all that,
which
and it
which
just
plays into
breaks. It's like
which
the
which plays into the next one actually.
yeah, it does.
But yeah, the armor piece doesn't break, does it?
No, no, it was or
Was it?
certain pieces of it break, but it's not the piece for the
Yeah,
next movie.
yeah, yeah. So shamed that he lost, Krauser throws himself from his wall, from his castle, and
Hmm.
kills himself. To which then you get a moment to see Geese Overoff finding out the news and going, haha, dumbass, essentially.
Yeah, and then of course, what does he do? Unleash some crazy new ability, which was the Morning Star, or I forget what it was called. Rock does it in the.
This is, I don't think he unleashes it then. I think he unleashes it in the next movie.
Oh, maybe.
Because you get to see him standing in like the bamboo forest and
Yeah, yeah. Okay, that was in the third one. Yeah, you're right. But they do. Yeah, they have that moment where he tells him like essentially that his revenge has been taken by Terry.
hmm yeah, so that's when you get to see him do that. Yeah, I'm trying to. What is that? Yeah, so
Yeah, and that
and
really
that's
kind of is the end right there.
yeah. He kind of that's kind of the
Yeah.
end of him.
And then of course Tony's mom would go, "Silly child, you're coming home with me." And then and then he's like, "I'm gonna be like Terry one day," and she's like, "Fuck no, you're not."
I'm gonna slap that right out of you.
Yeah, he's a horrible role model.
Running around fighting random people for no good reason is no real way to live, unless you're Terry Bogard or Ryu.
Yeah, exactly. So, and then that brings us, and again, it has to be like another 6 months, like 3 to 6 months, because obviously it starts off with Joe having his first fight back after being in horrible traction from Krauser.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, because like it starts right out after. Yeah, because the opening scene is uh, is Joe going to fight?
Yeah,
Like a professional like a kickboxing combat.
yeah,
And first thing to note, I would say, when you start watching the motion picture, it's obvious that they have a higher production value.
yeah. It's like they got an
They're,
entire
they're,
new budget.
yeah, the animation level is much higher. I mean, while still similar to the previous movies, uh, that you can just tell there's just much more went into it. Um, better, better sound, better like a good little kind of soundtrack going on to it, and then it kind of opens up with his entrance into the ring in Joe Higashi form, and jumping in. Everybody's excited for him, and hear the bell, and they start going to battle, and just knees and elbows and punches flying at Joe, and Joe's just sitting there fully on the defensive. And there's a nice little fan service moment where you get to see Mai's boobs as she's eating popcorn, and Andy's sitting there next to him, and she's concerned that, oh, maybe he's not ready to fight yet. And Andy's like, nah, he's got this. Just give it a second. And then he unleashes
It's a singular knee, isn't it? Just like
yeah,
right to the
just
guy's face.
one just straight knee to the face, and it's game over.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and which is pretty epic. Like good little fight scene. I found it pretty good.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm a big fan of seeing like big battles that get ended real like by one move, like just bam and it's over.
Yeah, that kind of anticlimactic thing where it's just like you weren't what you thought you were, boom, and
I mean,
just down.
yeah, like from some of the ones that come to mind that I enjoy that are very similar to that is let's see here, On Bach, when you see that dude just bum rushes him, he just straight thrust kicks him to the face and it's like over.
Yep.
And then if you ever seen Sukiyaki Western Django, the final battle on that one is also very much the similar anticlimactic instant over.
Yeah, I do remember that.
I don't know. I find those kind of endings to be like satisfying and awesome and hilarious all at the same time.
Exactly.
It's like yeah, and in certain ways I find them to be more realistic because most real fights end that fast. Like if you get into a fight somewhere and somebody really is that grossly stronger than somebody, it's just gonna be like, oh yeah, well, bam, over.
Yep.
Conscious.
Exactly. And so, yeah, and then after the battle, they're super happy for Joe, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm powerful or strong again," and he's
Yeah.
like, "I've really been working out," kind of thing.
Isn't he like where he's like, oh yeah, I'm ready. I might even be stronger than you guys now, and blah blah blah.
Yeah, yeah. Getting a little bit of his kind of gift of gab on and being funny and all that.
Yeah, and then it jumps to some a businessman, Godamus, Laucorn Godamus, or is it?
Laucorn got him.
Or does it show? Or does it introduce the sister first? I can't remember.
No, I think it shows him first.
Yeah. Or is it where are they at like the after party and then like the fight breaks out and that's when you kind of meet Sulia really quick.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then yeah, because she kind of rolls through. Sulia Gadamus kind of rolls through and being chased by like these crazy, almost cyber things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Big Bear, another character from the game, decides he's going to try and fight it, gets owned, and then that's when Kim steps forward. You get to see his appearance again since getting owned by Terry in the very beginning of the second movie.
Yeah.
He shows up and is all hardcore suddenly and kind of squares off against this thing. Starts getting beaten down a little bit, and then unloads his super kick move, which I'm honestly didn't play Kim too often as a character, so I'm assuming must be his super move in the game.
Yeah, I think it is.
But he and then defeats this thing, and now they start to find out why Sulia. So what's she on the run from, and blah blah blah. And
Before we go forward, I'd also like to point out Kim's wife and child are there, seeing the dad getting the crap kicked out of him. If you remember.
That's right. They're like worried as like because like at one point in the fight, like Kim's just getting owned, like just like getting completely devastated, and that's when doesn't like his child like goes, "You can do it, Dad," or something like that, and then that gives him re-inspired power, which then he unloads his ultimate kick.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like next time, lead off with that thing.
Yeah, exactly. It's like traumatized kid, go. Is like super, and then like once that had been thoroughly implanted in that child's mind, so that later on he can, talk to a therapist about his dad getting beat by like some cybernetic fighter, then he just goes up super move time and kicks its ass.
It's like, well, you can have some fights where they have the Joe Hikashi instant finish. I understand from a cinematic standpoint, you have to have those comeback victories because you can't have every fight just like, all right, instant end,
Yeah.
instant end. You have to have somebody who has to struggle for the win.
Yeah, exactly. And it might as well be Kim, I guess. He got beat in the second one and now he got a win finally. And of course, his child got traumatic experience of just
Yeah, and yeah, so then you kind of get to find out what's really going down, and Sulia's on the run from her brother, Laucorn, Godimus, and you find out like their family is also some prestigious line similar to Krauser. Um, Sulia was actually looking for Terry since he beat Krauser, since you know she needs somebody who's super hardcore to defend her,
mm,
and Krauser was known to be pretty awesome in his own right. Um, at this and then you find out that maybe one of the reasons that Krauser was so hardcore was that he possessed one of the pieces of the armor of Mars,
exactly.
and which then says all kinds of things about Krauser, seeing as his dad potentially had that piece of armor before Krauser owned him. So,
Mm.
but anyway, but like, and then you kind of find out that as you acquire more pieces of Mars, you gain more and more power. As Laucorn is acquiring all of the pieces of Mars, what is two gauntlets to what is two gauntlets to
Two leg guards and a chest?
leggings, leggings, a chest, and a crown
Yeah.
or helmet. Is it a helmet or crown? I can't remember. It's a crown that like transforms into a helmet or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
That's the final piece he gets. This is the crown,
hmm
and uh,
I forget, at that point, didn't they
that's
go to the island and that's when you find out um, that
yeah,
the blitz ball that Krauser used
yeah,
is the
and
Hurricane Fist?
and the hurricane, like pretty much all like the super devastating moves that ever existed, all come from Godimus, this original Godimus figure from the past who possessed all of the pieces of Mars
Yeah, and then was
and was like
struck
basically
down.
struck down by Alexander the Great,
Yeah.
and then Alexander the Great split the armor and sent it across the world or whatever because. Um, but or no, well, Godimus was in his own right a badass with he had the armor, but when Alexander killed Godimus, the armor itself came back to life as Mars
Yep.
and destroyed a city, and then they eventually were. It was defeated by four warriors. Can by four warriors, which
Convenient.
conveniently you have Joe, Terry, Andy, and Mai. So
Yep.
for new warriors, and then they were able to, from that. Then they're the ones who split the armor and sent it all over the place and yada yada yada.
Yeah, exactly.
Apparently, seeing as no normal human being stands a threat to any of these four characters, now the villains they face are pretty much superhuman. Uh, Launching what I mean, one guy can basically create blades with wind, and the other guys do all kinds of stuff. And then essentially, at one point, Laucorn becomes God. He becomes Mars.
Yep.
So
And then of course the Earth guy, who
yeah,
has all of essentially is the mirror image of Terry, has all of his almost seems like his moves, but in Earth form.
instead of shooting a big shockwave of energy, he shoots a Earth shockwave, and then he has the same similar fist punch and
Yeah.
everything else. Yeah, and then as you kind of get a little bit more history on all these little tidbits of where the armor went, and kind of like pretty much people who rose to power because they got a piece of the armor, and uh, and
Yeah, and the best part of it is, hey, hey Terry, you remember Lily? Lily? Who's Lily? I don't remember Lily. Sulia.
now I have Sulia, who appears in my life for a few minutes, tells me her sad story, and suddenly now she's the love of my life.
Yep, yep.
Sulia.
But
He,
Lily would understand.
Terry is very quick to love.
Yeah, exactly. That's the best way to put it.
He loves deeply, quickly. Not the wisest life decision. It sets you up for heartache, but apparently that's what he does.
Yep.
Sulia has healing powers, which is
It's a good thing to
so
have
something.
because Terry gets the crap kicked out of him.
Yep, and apparently, in order for it to work, she has to get naked and lay on top of him.
Yeah, skin on skin. Well, I guess that's why. I mean, technically,
Might as
Terry
well.
never got Lily's clothes off, so at
So,
this point, she's already far above Lily. Lily brought booze, but Sulia brought naked time.
yep.
Well,
Apparently,
bra and panties, but
she brings sexy healing, which is how she does things. Um, let's see here, and then so then Terry vows to protect her from everything in the world, and
totally fails.
well, I mean,
Well,
he kind of succeeds, and then she kind of decides that
to save him, she's gonna go with her brother.
because they end up like going through a few other little shenanigans. They go to they see the Duck King and to get more information to find out where these last pieces of Mars are in order to.
Yeah, because they go and look for him, like essentially.
Because we all know that a random DJ at a club is gonna know where the pieces of Mars are, but whatever.
It's the Duck King. It's the Duck King.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and at this point, this is where you get to see Geese use the Raging Storm.
Is it Raging Storm? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Okay.
Standing in the middle of a bamboo forest, and then busts out Raging Storm and blows the entire freaking thing down. So
Yeah.
essentially, she's displaying that, hey, I got a power that's pretty much on par with the power geyser.
Yep.
So, kind of. But really, that's the only scene you get with Geese in this movie.
Yeah.
Just a, hey, guess what? I got a superpower. Goodbye.
Yep.
Like it's like an entirely random, unnecessary scene for the movie. Like,
Well, it was like they were trying to set up, like, hey, there's gonna be a second one, like Geese's Revenge or something, but then that never happened. So
but when you end the movie with your main character fighting the god of war,
exactly, where can you go from there?
Geese is not going to compare to the god of war.
Exactly.
It's just not. I mean, so they end up going to Israel, which is where the final piece of the armor is, the sixth piece.
Yeah.
The crown.
Yeah, the crown.
And once he puts that on, Laucorn goes crazy, turns into super powerful god of war, and can launch gigantic energy fists left and right.
Yeah, and of course all of Laucorn's minions fight, the different people before this, and they of course to defeat them and then come see him place the crown on his head. So
that's what because the wind guy gets beat by Andy because he hurts Mai, and then as shown in the previous movie, when you hurt Mai, Andy loses his shit and then kills everybody.
Yeah, and just beats the crap out of him.
Yeah, and then wasn't there a girl as well?
Yeah, and Mai
beats her.
Mai beats her earlier on though.
And then and then the rock Terry then fights Terry, and while they're basically unloading, he's unloading a power geyser, isn't he?
Yeah, and that guy stops,
and he's doing his earth geyser, and then while they're in the middle of it, he just kind of, all right, I'm just gonna let you hit me now, and gets devastated by it. And stuff like, why would you do that? Or it's Jammin, that was his name.
Yeah, that was it.
Or no, it wasn't the power geyser. They were doing their versions of the burn knuckle.
Yeah, it's burn knuckle and
his earth
knuckle fist or something.
Whatever. Essentially, just earth, whatever. So then they're slamming into each other, and then he goes, "Okay, I'm just gonna let you hit me now," and he runs up. Why would you let me do that? And he says, "Well, somebody has to protect Miss Julia, and you're the only one who can do it. It's like, how about you just join us
Yeah, how
and
about
we
you
can
just
go
like
own this
stop
guy?
that? Yeah, exactly.
But I guess, he's too loyal to the god of his family and you could never hurt them or whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Basically, I don't know how Terry's supposed to beat this guy. He's just going to give up.
Mhm. It was like, oh, we made them too equal, and Terry can't,
He can't unload his superpower right now. He has to do that on Mars.
exactly. And then of course, then you've got probably the best fight, simply for the fact that in it, everybody's fighting Gadamus,
Yeah.
but then Joe Higashi all of a sudden just says, "Don't get carried away, assholes." Joe Higashi's gonna give you something to remember him by, and just does this huge tornado blast towards the guy, and you're like,
It's
"That
the,
was pretty cool."
that's when he does the double tornado, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That's the first time he does, because in the games at this point is when his normal screw upper, super screw upper, has now become the dual screw upper.
Yeah.
So in the movies, obviously you have to show that. So he unloads the double tornado uppercut,
And then
and
of course he's like, "I did it." No.
bam.
And punch in the face.
Yeah, and so everybody just kind of gets ownaged. No one can seem to beat Laucorn as Mars. And then Sulia goes, "Oh wait, we're twins. Anything that happens to me will happen to him." Stab myself in the chest.
Yep.
Like, it's like, couldn't you have stabbed yourself in the arm?
Yeah. Like,
Like
couldn't you have gone for something less vital?
or no, well, no. First, she does start with the arm.
Yeah, she starts with the arm, and then instead of just continuing along that line, as her brother kind of goes towards her, she then stabs herself in the chest.
Yep. And like and then that's what gives Terry the opening, because now that since she stabbed herself in the heart, gives Laucorn the weakness to strike him in the breastplate.
Yeah.
And then
And then the armor forms into.
yeah, because then he's able to do the burn knuckle into his chest, which then breaks the armor off.
Yep.
And then that turns into the coins.
Yep.
And
And
then the
they.
coins melt just like Gadamus in the past. It's they come together and turn into Mars. And now
And then he realizes he was a pawn for Laucorn goes sob story time.
Laucorn's like, "Oh man, I wasn't meant to be awesome.
It's like, no, dude, you weren't meant to be awesome at all.
You're just a giant raging douche who wanted to just destroy stuff for some stupid reason."
Yeah. And then, of course,
And
you have that weeping moment. Obviously he's like, man, this is literally all over again.
he absorbs
I get boobs
Sulia's
and a little bit
life
of.
source,
Yeah.
and then now suddenly has the power to take on the god of Mars head on, and
And everybody essentially runs at that point. Right? Like,
yeah,
Lauerkorn. Doesn't Lauerkorn get, like, set on fire and melted or something?
yeah, yeah, he gets lit up. He gets lit up and cries out "Sulia" as he dies.
Yeah.
And then uh, you know, and then Andy and Joe, they all kind of run away because like what about Terry? He's like, Terry's the only one who can do this now, which is like not something you would normally hear from Andy. And
Yeah.
like wanting to be a part of it. And this is when also I think is another video game like superpower in the game. I think this is when Terry unloads his Buster Wolf, which is essentially like a super uber power geyser.
Yeah.
And yeah, and he turns the Buster Wolf into and unloads that on the god of Mars and kills him. Then everybody sees the rubble and wondering if Terry makes it. And then Terry steps out. And they're all, "Yay, happy, happy time!" Even though your girl just died, and I guess in a saying, in almost as in saying like, "I give up." Terry throws his hat out to the sky,
Yep.
and it's like, okay, I killed a god. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like.
What more can I accomplish now? And then the good old "Oh Angel" music kicks in, and roll credits.
and roll credits, and then that is it. And you just kind of go, I just spent like 4 hours watching these things.
It's like, whoa. Yeah, I mean, I think it was. I mean, unless they make another one at some point, I think that it was a good move to end there because like I don't know. One of my problems with some animes is when they get to the point where you're fighting world-ending powers.
On a
It's,
on
it's,
a
it's
movie basis.
on a day-to-day basis. It's time to your story has to come to an end at some point.
Yep.
Like you can't. There's only so many times you can have everybody throwing. Hey, guess what? My superpower can blow up a city. Mine can blow up a planet. Okay, well that's fantastic. What really? What more do you have from there?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so there it is. That is Fatal Fury, essentially the box set, completely dissected and talked about and spoiled, and I think that is kind of where we should end. Um, I
Lots of
chose
fun.
the Fatal Fury box set. So, what do you want to be the next one?
Ooh, snap! Put me on point right in the middle of
I know, right
the.
in the middle of the podcast. Well, I
That's
guess right at the end.
yeah, right at the end. I guess. Well, let's stick to one. I think I mean, I keep saying that we're gonna do one uh, that we're gonna say no. I don't want to watch that one. But I think I want to stick to another one that I think was good. Uh, this one, for those of you who haven't seen it, you can watch it. I believe they have it on Netflix right now. If you have that, let's do High School of the Dead.
High School of the Dead. All right, sounds good. I actually have not seen this one, so it'll be my first time watching it.
It's only, I think it's 10 episodes. It's all on Netflix. If you have that, I don't know.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
you don't get a hold of it, it's really good. You should enjoy it.
All right.
So you already know my answer before we get to the next one.
Yeah, so I already know it, but that is okay. So this is where we're gonna end it. As always, Adam's and my stuff are down in the description below for anything we are doing at this moment, and
Check
please
it.
subscribe. We will see you on the next episode of Spoiled Anime, and thank you for watching.
Take it easy.